Horton Hears a Who is an imaginative children's book written by Dr. Seuss, published in 1954 about a kind-hearted elephant and a city on a small speck of dust called Whoville. A couple years later, a movie version was released in 2008, directed by Jimmy Hayward and Steve Martin. Although the book and the movie are a bit different, they both teach us an important lesson on not judging people on their size. Horton quotes, "A person's a person, no matter how small," in the movie and the book. The main character of Horton Hears a Who is Horton. Horton is seen as a sympathetic, caring, and thoughtful creature towards the Whos and everyone around him. Although the sour kangaroo doesn't hear the Whos on the speck of dust, she is seen as the antagonist for trying to get rid of the speck of dust and not listening to those around her, like the baby kangaroo in her pouch, that is seen in the book agreeing with its mother. Throughout the whole film, two key characters that also played an important role is the mayor and a little child named Jojo. In the book, the mayor is seen as just a person that talks with Horton, but in the movie, he actually has a wife and 96 daughters and one son. Jojo does the same role, but appears a bit different throughout the whole film. The setting of Horton Hears a Who is vividly mentioned in the book and shown a lot in the movie. There are two important settings in the film and the book, which is the jungle of Newell and Whoville. The jungle of Newell is described as nice, cool, surrounded with animals, peaceful, and stunning. Whoville, on the other hand, is crowded, busy, talkative. The Whos are not used to problems and hazards, because when the mayor tried to warn them about all the shaking around the city, the judges refused to cancel the Who centennial, although in the book they didn't mention judges. Interesting events start to unfold in both the book and the movie, and more problems and challenges start approaching to Horton for protecting the Whos, like the sour kangaroo got all the animals in the jungle of Newell to tie up Horton and take the speck of dust and put it in bezelnut stew. So the mayor had to fight for Whoville. Every Who started making a racket for the kangaroo to hear. They were almost going to give up, but Jojo came and blew a huge trumpet. Finally, the kangaroo heard it, and that proves a person's a person no matter how small. Whoville was saved by the littlest of all. While both the book and the movie are very entertaining, the movie provides more detail and more interesting characters, and allows the reader to learn more about the mayor and his children, which makes the reader more intrigued on the story. In conclusion, I prefer the movie because it has more detail and it's more entertaining.
Very Alyaa.
Horton Hears a Who is an extraordinary juvenile book that was published in the year 1954 by Dr. Seuss. However, the animated film was released in 2008 by Jimmy Hayward and Steve Martino after Dr. Seuss's despondent death. In both narratives, Horton is conveyed as a compassionate elephant protecting a speck of dust, while the other antagonists try to kill or boil it. A pivotal character in both narratives was Horton. He is depicted as a caring character considering he fortified the speck of dust, unlike the sour kangaroo who demanded to slaughter the speck/Whoville by boiling it. Throughout the narrative, there were a few changes in some of the characters' personalities. In the book, the baby kangaroo agrees with the sour kangaroo to boil the speck of dust, whilst in the movie, the baby kangaroo doesn't agree with his mom and is on Horton's side, agreeing that there's life on the speck. The main setting in the book and movie was the jungle of Newell and Whoville. The jungle of Newell is portrayed as a magical jungle where Horton hears an extremely quiet noise coming from around him, which was a speck of dust. On the speck, there was an unexpected neighborhood called Whoville. They were where little people called Whos lived in. In Whoville, there are microscopic buildings, houses, and Whos. Although there are some differences between the novel and the film, both texts have the same event where the speck of dust was heard by Horton. Horton was going to ignore the speck of dust, but he explained, "I'll just have to save him because, after all, a person's a person no matter how small." That amazing quote is trying to tell the target audience, even if a person is small or big, that everyone should get treated the same. Whilst both the novel and the film are very well presented in their own way, I prefer the movie over the story. The reason for that is because the movie offers more information and has extremely good graphics. That's why I would highly recommend this film to kids.
Thank you. I'll answer it already.
Horton Hears a Who, an astonishing book written by Dr. Seuss, was published in 1954, whilst the movie was directed by Jimmy Hayward and Steve Martino, released in 2008. Both narratives previously mentioned
Horton as a sympathetic character that cared for the speck of dust, the Who's. Both versions highlight the significance that they are trying to teach us that we should treat everybody with respect and equally, no matter how small or big someone is. In comparison, Horton repeatedly says, a person's a person no matter how small. At the beginning of both narratives, the setting was similar. It was in the jungle of Noor and the Cool of the Pool, but the opening was slightly different. In the movie, a spiky ball fell, then went into a cave, then it knocked down the sunflower, and a speck of dust flew out of the cave. Unlike in the opening scene of the book, Horton was in the jungle of Noor and the Cool of the Pool. Horton was one of the pivotal characters in both narratives. He was also portrayed as a considerate, kind-hearted person. I can prove that due to the fact that he previously stated in the book, "I'll help you," when he heard a very faint "help," as if some tiny person was calling for him. The baby kangaroo was also one of the major characters only in the movie, while in the book he wasn't, because he was agreeing with his mom and repeatedly saying "me too." On the other hand, in the movie, he was agreeing with Horton and he saved the Who's from getting bored. In my opinion, I much prefer the book because it had much more detail, much more characters, and it was multicolored, unlike the book, which was mostly uninteresting and dull. I would definitely recommend the film over the novel.
Well done.